Bans are through here in terms of overall ban champions. Blue team has banned out Morgana, Rengar, and Maokai, which I'm fine with all those bans. We've just talked about how annoying Rengar can be. We've seen him in a lot of these workshops, and we've also talked about how annoying Maokai can be. So I'm okay with all of those bans. On the split side, they banned out Yasuo, Nasus, and Fizz. In last game, we mentioned how Nasus, it's generally not worth the ban, but if you're worried about, I just don't want to play versus it, I can't shut it down in lane, then I could understand why you'd want to take it out. Same thing over to Fizz. I don't like a Fizz ban, I don't think he's that strong, but with Athene's having been nerfed, the magic resist on Chalice and Athene's, assassins that snowball really heavily, such as Akali, Fizz, Katarina to a lesser extent, all of those champions have moved up like just a half a notch in terms of strength, and they're very annoying to play versus. So I can understand where the bans are coming from. I might not necessarily agree with them as the like overall best possible bans you can use, but I understand the purpose behind them, and I'm fine with it. In terms of picks, blue team has gone for a Lux mid, a Renekton top, Elise jungle, and then bot lane is going to be Thresh Jinx. I really like Thresh Jinx as a lane. I think it's an incredibly strong pairing because you have so many options. You have the poke, you have the engage, the disengage, the extra mobility to try and pull Jinx out of bad fights, because that is one of her main weaknesses. So I just think that's a really good pairing there, and I really, really like seeing it picked. The Lux is running Ignite. I don't personally agree with that. I say take heal if you're not versus Ignite, take barrier if you're versus Ignite, and take clairvoyance if you want to have a gimmick with your jungler, but I don't recommend doing it.
Just because Lux stands so far back that when are you really going to be igniting people?
Exactly, and it's the same reason I don't think DFG Lux is that strong a build. Yes, if they jump directly on top of you, you can surprise them with a ton of burst and get a free kill. But is it what you're trying to accomplish in most of your games?
And how are you going to hit all those skill shots from an inch away with Lux?
Exactly. Exactly. By the time you overlap that entire combo, you're probably dead. Right? Like, let's say it's a Fed Yi, you're trying to burst him as he jumps in on top of you. Okay, have you pulled back enough to land that combo before he's two-shot you?
Right, because, I mean, you have to lead with the DFG to get the damage from it, but you have to lead with the snare to...
The only combo I would see working there is snare, flash backwards, E, DFG, alt, detonate, E, auto attack.
And you better hope he's dead then.
Yeah.
Because you just used flash and DFG.
And ignite. Sorry, ignite's following up in there because that's what they're running. But you don't have the ignite to buy time to land the binding flash, because Yi has already queued and auto attacked you by the time snare and flash have gone off. So if he's fed, you're already dead. If you're low, you're already dead.
Right.
And you've invested all your gold in that gimmick combo, right? So that's why I don't run Ignite on Lux. Like, I always joke about Clairvoyance just because I want it to be a thing and I want to use it more often.
But
it's a more viable choice than Ignite, and I don't consider
definitely.
I don't consider it a viable choice. But yeah, flip side, they then have a Blitzcrank Ezreal bot lane. They have a Master Yi jungle, an Orianna mid, and a Shyvana top. Orianna Shyvana or Orianna Yi is pretty terrifying in just how well they can get that ball in there and ult people together. But what are they then following it up with?
Right, they've got no AoE from... I mean, they've got Ezreal ult, that's about it. And then Master Yi is really dependent on how fed he gets.
Mm-hmm. Their ideal combo, I would say, would be Orianna and Shyvana ult on top of someone, right? So Orianna jumps in, groups them together with the Orianna ult, chomps them, Ezreal ults across that, and then Yi plays cleanup, Blitzcrank plays peel, essentially. But that's not generally what Blitzcrank wants to do. So you've just wasted the Blitz pick, you've gambled the Yi pick, and Ezreal's not necessarily the best combo across that. So I just think there's a lot of disconnect in what their team wants to accomplish. Sorry, go ahead.
So kind of how I feel about this is it feels like a lot of the matchups are so bad that it's not going to matter what the comp is. So like Renekton used to be known as this champion that dominated Shyvana, but teleport instead of ignite basically means that Shyvana gets to late game, Renekton has much less of a late game than Shyvana. Orianna is kind of the same thing, where Orianna is really Lux 2.0. They've both got the long range poke. They've both, got the similar amounts of like spammable long-range slows and CC and stuff. But Orianna has the huge team fight ult, whereas Lux has more of the like pick ult that's more situational. And then the reverse is true though on the other side, where you've got Jinx Thresh, where Jinx is like really one of the strong new AD carries, and Thresh is basically a better Blitzcrank.
Agreed, yeah. And what really sucks for Blitzcrank is who is he grabbing?
Exactly.
Jinx, Lux. Those are the only two people he really wants to grab. And if he gets in range to land a grab onto Jinx, you've probably just eaten a Thresh Hook or an Elise Cocoon and haven't really accomplished anything. If you do land the grab, that's awesome for you, but your team has to kill them immediately before Thresh can pull her to safety.
Right.
And I'm not saying that Thresh is going to be able to pull her to safety every time, but it is something that you have to consider in that combo. So the Blitz just doesn't really fit either side. It doesn't counter blue side, and it doesn't work well with purple side.
Right.
And I like Blitz. I like playing him. He's a fun sort of troll pick champion. Sorry, not a troll pick in that he's weak, but he's a troll in that he makes the enemy team angry.
That he does.
So I like him, but I just don't see him working well in this team comp.
Right.
Especially with Ezreal.
I could see with like a Syndra or something. If they still had Syndra on this team, then the Blitzcrank is great. You pick someone, you kill them.
Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily like it versus this team comp, but Blitzcrank Vayne or Blitzcrank even Caitlyn. No, not Caitlyn, sorry. Blitzcrank Jinx. Someone like that who, when you land a grab, can follow up with CC and burst or sustained damage. Might be a good option. But Ezreal's damage just isn't that good. He wants to poke, he doesn't want to all in. And Blitzcrank, his only use is all in.
The one thing that I think really tips the scales, though, is you've got all these lanes that are really strong snowballing bursty lanes like Lux and Renekton, and then if you look at the jungle matchups, early game at least just wins.
Yeah.
Elise has stupid amounts of damage, and so if Elise can put pressure on top and get Renekton ahead, that changes the dynamic of that matchup. If Elise can get an early kill onto Orianna, Lux actually has pretty insane burst, and so I'm biased, of course, but I think the jungle pick really has the potential to change the state of the game entirely.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a dominant laner and you have a weak laner, and you pick a weak jungler, you basically just said, I don't care about you, laner. Go fend for yourself.
Exactly. He's going to be trying so hard to just farm up, and then his only real gank potential is, hey, you just tried to dive my laner, I'm going to come clean up the kill.
Right, and you don't really want to leave someone out to dry versus Renekton Elise. That's 2 stuns, tons of burst. Almost no one survives that, especially pre-6.
Mm-hmm. And again, with the bot lane, it leaves Elise free to just focus the 2 solos. I don't see bot lane needing any help here. The exception, of course, being if they walk into every hook, well, that kind of sucks. So Jinx does rush bot lane for the early experience advantage. Thresh overstays a little bit on the leash, but it doesn't matter if Elise is going to get ahead, is going to have an influence. I sort of agree with it, but level 2 is just so important. I wouldn't gamble that.
Yeah.
Alright, so Jinx is level 2, Thresh not quite yet. He needs, I believe, a melee and a caster in order to get the level up. Jinx trap's not quite going through. She walks really close here. Is able to bait out the hook, though doesn't get pulled into tower. And that's going to buy time for Thresh to hit level 2 and then to start having an influence on this lane. Quick comment towards Thresh, though. I don't see him trying to move up to auto-attack harass, and he did start play. So I would like to see him trying to land a lot of damage, because you have such a strong early game versus Ezreal. Unless you're just eating every Q he throws out or you're getting hooked, you're going to be just fine. Back in mid lane, though, a huge amount of damage coming out. That looks to be Orianna tanking minions, though.
Those traps were also really over-aggressive. The way Jinx plays them, that was I know I have this kill, they're going to run away trap. And that simply wasn't the case, because they popped heal. I also want to just point out the jungler routes, because I think as much as I don't like the Yi pick, Yi really outplayed at least there. So Master Yi went blue, wolves, red, wraiths. And you can see it in the CS difference right now, because Elise went red straight to blue, then wolves. That's a really hard route, because you don't have your smite up for blue, and you end up falling a little bit behind in CS. The Master Yi's already up 15 CS to 9, he's already got his Madrids. He's going to start to be able to clear very quickly.
I also see Elise trying to go bot lane. And not only is she wasting time on a lane that should win on its own, she's also standing on a ward and wasting her time. So she's already behind, and then she's compounding that due to that decision to not only gank, but then stay after you don't immediately see an opportunity to fight.
I mean, I've got nothing against ganking a winning lane, just because, you know, it's sometimes free money, but that standing on a ward really hurts.
Mm-hmm. But why not do that for Lux then, right?
Right, okay.
Alright, so the Blitz Hook goes across onto Thresh. You're landing a lot of damage, but is the Q gonna land? Nope, Q does not land from Ezreal, so no kill goes across.
That is actually about how I feel, though, about the... So actually we can see Shyvana doesn't die, and that's what I'm talking about. If you have Ignite, Renekton Shyvana is a really strong lane, but Renekton doesn't quite have the damage to knock her out without the Ignite, and so... She's going to teleport back to lane. It's going to be basically, you know, a small amount of bullying, but it's not game-changing. On the other hand, Lux is able to put down an insane amount of poke onto Orianna. And with Master Yi, actually, if they can pinch him here, that's about their...
Lux landing a very nice binding. Ignite goes across, and they should pick up the kill here, no problem.
Yeah, that's why I really want to see that Lee's making early plays like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they can do with Elise missing her stun.
Yeah, and I mean, if she hit it, boom, you could even get a double. Now, as much as I didn't like the Ignite pick, and I still don't, but Lux is using her passive very effectively, and the passive was recently buffed. So it's a slightly more viable option to run Ignite in the current setup, because she can do that much more mid to late game damage by proccing all of her passive charges. In the meantime, Shyvana does pick up kill onto Renekton. They do double flash though. Either way though, good job getting back into that on her part. She's now level 6, and he is still level 5.
I don't think that was really a play by Shyvana so much as a misplay by Renekton. When you force someone back in lane, you also need to leave lane. Because they're going to come back with items and with full health. In this case, no items because she was zoned away. But still, the full health makes a huge difference. Oh! Thank God for Thresh Lanterns, right?
Mm-hmm. So one of the main things I've noticed mid is twofold, actually. Orianna tends to tank a lot of minion damage because she's so worried about picking up farm in the lane that she doesn't want to lose anything to tower. So that's then setting up Lux for free harass, whether it's auto attacks or whether it's skills. Actually, let's rewind that. Kill bot.
Jinx just keeps getting hit by hooks.
Okay. And that's what I said. This lane should win bot, but if you're going to walk into hooks, then it's not going to work out for you. So, well played on Blitz here, getting those hooks, but there's no reason for her to be in position to get hit by them in the first place. But back towards Lux, she's putting her skills where they need to be, but Orianna is putting herself in a very easy position for those skills to land. By tanking the minions, by walking back towards walls. As you see, she comes back to lane here, and immediately she's dropped to about a third of her health because she's refusing to let minions go into tower. And even then, I mean, she is falling behind in CS. So if I were her, I'd try and play this lane a little bit safer, and then try and abuse how easily you can take Wraiths on Orianna. Once she gets like one more item, she's just going to be able to pretty much one-shot the wave, take Wraiths, one-shot the wave, take Wraiths. But tanking minions like this is just not the way to pull yourself back into this lane.
Another thing that I don't like about how bot lane is playing out is you want to spend a lot less time in 1v2 situations. So if your laner dies, there's often this tendency to think, oh man, my laner just died, I need to make up for that, I need to get CS now, I need to, like, stay even in this lane. But actually what happens is you're now in a 2v1 situation. What you need to do is the exact opposite of that, which is play even more safe than normal. You might want to go back, you might want to just sit on a tower and soak experience, but the last thing you want to do is try and sit in lane and farm like normal.
Yeah, personally, as a support especially...
especially as the support, yeah.
Yeah, as a support, I would say there's 3 things you want to consider. 1, can I take farm 100% safely? So I'm underneath tower, I'm not walking into skill shots by going for the CS, and is that CS going to do me any significant good? So that is definitely a concern, because let's say it's going to get you a really important item just by taking 2 or 3 CS, or you're going to hit a level breakpoint, that's fine. The second thing to think is staying here going to cost me later? So, do I have enough gold for an item? Am I at a level breakpoint that I need to push as soon as my laner gets back? And am I low health, right? In that case, you probably want to recall, so that you can come back with your laner, even if you're losing tower or getting a lot of damage onto your tower. If you're going to make up for it right after by having a strong item or having a strong level breakpoint that you can push with your laner, then that's a good thing. Thresh does land the hook, Flay goes across, but as Ezreal being Ezreal is going to just sort of arcane shift away. No ult used by Thresh, and I definitely agree with that because, well, it's Ezreal. He's not going to really be in any risk. Now, this is one of the things with Blitzcrank and why Thresh is a better option. Once the hook was used by Blitzcrank and the combo was used by Blitzcrank, Jinx is free to just re-engage and do as much damage as she wants, because he has no threat in lane. So that should have gone more in Purple Team's favor if it was any other support.
There are 2 things that I want to say about what just happened top lane. One, when you're playing Renekton, you don't want to hold your ultimate. Your ultimate actually does damage. Had Renekton ulted earlier, he probably would have killed Shyvana before Master Yi even showed up. I think people have a tendency, I mentioned this about Nasus last game, to hold on to those ults and think, oh man, I could like surprise them, right, and get a bunch of extra health in the last second or whatever. But they are as much damage skills as they are tankiness skills. And so, you really want to use them the second you're committing to a fight. And by committing, I mean able to make sure it continues. You obviously don't want to like ult every time you trade, but once you know the fight is happening, you should be going. And then 2, again, the lack of Ignite leaves Shyvana at like 10 health.
Yeah, it's an odd choice because Renekton's not necessarily a good split pusher late game.
Right, he's a lane bully.
Yeah, he's a lane bully that transitions into a meat shield or someone who just dives into the back line if he's super ahead in the mid to late game. So what's that teleport picked for? It's picked for lane advantage, but you're giving up your lane advantage by taking it. So I just don't see what it's intending to accomplish here. And I guess the only thing I could really argue for is that he wants to teleport down for objectives or ganks. But that's not what Renekton does well, so I don't like it at all.
Also, as a follow-up to that, Elise is also not really like playing to her strengths. We see that she only has 2 kill involvement at this point, which is basically as many as Master Yi has. Whereas Master Yi has, you know, a 20 CS advantage, has Wriggles finished. Good counter gank by Lux though. Lux is really all over the map right now.
She's doing an incredibly good job. I would like to also give props over to Thresh. He tries to land the hook onto Yi. Yi flashes over it, but then he still flays them away so that he can't alpha strike onto anyone else. After that, the team does return a lot of damage. No one really gets taken down, but it buys enough time for Lux to get there, and it makes sure that he's providing enough safety for his allies. Alright, Orianna taken incredibly low yet again. This Lux is just doing wonders in this mid lane, and honestly, it's nothing to do with champion matchups. It's to do with Orianna mispositioning in lane, and to do with Lux's just knowledge and mastery of that champion and her mechanics with it.
And again, we can still see the bullying potential of Renekton. He's actually up 10 CS, but despite those 2 deaths. But it's just he's not using it to the extent that he needs to.
Pretty much what he's doing is jumping in, trying to wave clear, and then Shyvana gets farm, or not farm, a tower.
Right.
And at that point, Yi is free to gank him, and that shouldn't be a possibility. I mean, it's Yi, right? If you're getting constantly ganked by Yi, there's something wrong.
One strike.
The goal difference is not as large as I would expect, but oh, this is actually really good. We managed to split off Blitz, and Blitz is really only good at getting picks. Once he's separated, he doesn't do very much. Oh, this is going to be very close with both the supports chasing their opposing ADs, but it looks like they're both going to go down.
Well, supports win game. That's all I'm going to say there.
If Lux lands the ult here... Nope, not quite enough. Wow.
Now, one of the things I've started doing on Lux is actually rushing earlier aggressive items rather than going for the mana sustain. I'm not 100% sure if I like it, but it's been working pretty well so far. You see the flash ult coming in from Shyvana. She should be able to pick this up. Nope, one final dash away from Renekton.
Once again, Renekton held his ult for like 2 or 3 or 4 seconds in that team fight. And with Yi escaping at 10 health, that damage is the difference between a kill and having to run away.
Agreed, yeah.
It lasts like 15 seconds too. There's no reason not to blow it early.
Oh, he stuns a minion rather than Yi. So, minor mechanical misplay, but that should not happen.
If you're worried about those sorts of misplays, you can actually hold down the tilde key while you target abilities to only target champions.
I did not know that.
I think it's a short-term fix, and ultimately you just want to work on mechanics. But there are times in like really clustered team fights where minions are around, where I would still do that.
So I don't like that teleport from Shyvana, because what is the intention of it? You're turning that 2v4 into a 3v4, but Orianna is very far behind and not in position to fight. So you're just essentially jumping into the enemy team saying, hey guys, try and escape while I die.
Exactly.
And you're going to give up, maybe not the tower, because Yi is going up there, but there was no team fight potential there. There was no steal potential, there was no kill potential. So why use the teleport?
So we can really see how Thresh is so solid against Blitz, because every time Jinx gets hooked, except for those first 2 kills, the Lantern comes in immediately, Jinx gets to dash out.
Yep.
But about the teleport, what it really does is it turns your strong point, and it pits it against their strong point. And you don't really want that, because Lux is insanely fed right now. So Shyvana should just keep winning lane. Should keep fighting Renekton, because she's already beating Renekton. She doesn't want to go fight someone that can then turn around on her, beat her, and allow Renekton to claw his way back.
So we see like a million pings going down here onto
blue buff, right? That's.
I like the bot side trying to collapse, but with Lux there, not quite able to connect onto the Lux, and now Jinx is here, so that's going to be a dead Orianna. I would then expect them to turn immediately onto Ezreal or onto Blitz. The hook's just about to come up from Thresh. 1 second. Again, leading with Flay so that he has the slow on. Hooks into Blitz. I'm assuming he was trying to hook past Blitz, so that was a little bit odd. But at the end of the day, who cares? Flays Z away. Jinx is just able to continue landing damage. Hook's just about to come up.
Lux here, though. That's big.
Definitely, yeah. I don't know why Lux went in that deep.
She got hooked.
Oh, right. Sorry. I'm so not used to seeing Blitzcrank pick.
Yeah, he's like not a champion that I think of either.
What I would like to see there is, at the final section of that where Lux got hooked, Blitz's hook was about to come up, and he started to cycle back up in through River, instead of walking down so that he could hook in towards Tribush and try and catch someone so that Jinx could kill them.
Right.
I'm not sure if it would have got them anything, but just the way he was positioning there wasn't thinking ahead based on his cooldowns and based on what he wants to accomplish as a champion.
Again, just looking top, we can really see Renekton has huge bullying potential. He's up 30 CS, despite being down 2 kills. He's winning this lane, but Shyvana's just going to slowly outscale him, and thus giving up that early advantage by again, not having the Ignite, not using his ult at the right times, all of those things, really hurts him. Because it lets Master Yi keep doing this.
Ah, the alt used early this time.
Right? That's. And in this case, it's actually bad that the alt's used early because he's not standing next to anyone, which means he's not. Oh my god!
That was well played. Okay, nice Lux alt. I'm not sure if that was ping because I didn't see anything being spammed on the map, so I'm not sure if he intended for that or not. But that was a beautiful Lux alt.
Not sure if he intended to get both of them. That's fantastic. But basically, popping the ult early when no one's standing next to you basically negates everything that I was saying earlier. We're not actually getting any of that extra damage out.
Right.
But the Lux ult cleans things up and saves him. I really don't like that teleport. There's almost nothing to be gained from that. He's going to gain like 5 CS, and then Shyvana's going to get to farm a tower.
Yeah,
and
I'm
it was to
assuming
a
he's trying to
minion?
steal red.
It was to a minion, which means the cooldown is forever.
Yeah, red's not even up.
Killing spree.
Oh my god, the damage here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just not worth focusing on mid lane too much at this point because, well, every time Lux lands a combo, she's going to get a kill. And in terms of Orianna, it really just boils down to, hey, you need to position a bit better, you needed to not get caught. That didn't happen, so there's nothing more to say about that lane, unfortunately.
Right.
So Thresh is positioning very aggressively here. Jinx does get hooked, exhaust goes down on her. Thresh throws the ult in, hooks in onto Ezreal. Cocoon goes through. I'm actually surprised that he didn't arcane shift there. It's possible it was already on cooldown. But regardless, that's going to be 2 kills over to them. Lux is trying to come through here, but I don't think she's really needed. They can take the tower without her.
That was a very strong gank by Elise, but I still want to point out that Jinx really needs to start standing behind minions because Blitzcrank is able to get basically free hooks onto her constantly.
Definitely. The second comment I had is that I expected Ezreal to arcane shift as soon as the hook ended, and I didn't see if the cocoon landed before or after the hook was worn off, but it was very close in terms of timing. So I generally say on Elise, save your cocoon, save your repel until you know that you're going to hit it.
Quick tip on Ezreal, which people may or may not know. His arcane shift is like his ultimate and like Lux's ultimate in that you cannot stop it. So if you are in the middle of the animation and get hooked, you will still arcane shift away. In fact, you can even start your arcane shift after being blitz hooked, and you will still arcane shift away.
Yeah, and that's why it's so strong versus Blitz. It also works versus Thresh, because if Thresh follows it up, he's just pulled himself all the way back into your team or tower.
And so there's really no reason ever to get caught by stuns like that.
Nice, Blitz pulls him back in, and that's going to be a dead prop.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's worth it. They're going to lose mid tower for that. Good ultimate by Orianna, but she's so far behind that it's just not enough damage.
And there's also no one to follow up. If I were her, as much as that ult was tempting, it was saying, hey, I can land a really nice ult. Okay, but who's following it up, right? You now don't have that cooldown for this dragon fight, which I'm not saying they need to contest or that they can contest, but without the Orianna ult, there's no chance of contesting. Well, they do have the numbers here, so I definitely lied because they can just take it.
Yeah, Jinx and Renekton are back, and so well, really they should be going on with this before blue, but I don't think Jinx and Renekton can make it here. Well, they are delaying a lot.
They delayed way too long, and now they can't do it. Almost catches the hook, but not quite. They should still get it, but that was very sloppily played.
Thresh Hook just stole the dragon.
What's shocking about that is that Lux had her E on it, and she didn't detonate to steal it. The fact that Thresh Hook stole it meant that she could have stolen it so easily using either E or Alt.
I think Master Yi's slide was up too, so I don't...
I think he smited blue. No, it's up now. But he had his blue, so it's possible he smited blue and then tried to do dragon. Which if you did that, I want to slap you across the face about 5 times in a row. Because no, don't do that. Yeah, smite was used on blue apparently.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get like 5 different bitch slaps here, because that's a very, very poor decision.
That's sort of, well, that's not the reason that I was thinking of, but I really don't like taking blue in advance. I think when you're going to take a big objective like Dragon, that's your only priority.
Exactly. They wasted so much time cycling around Dragon rather than just clearing it and taking it. They then wasted so much time taking blue, but then they also wasted Smite. If you had any intention of taking Dragon after, why are you using Smite before that?
Right.
And second thing being is that they had Sweeper up, and instead of saying, okay, I'm saving Sweeper, we're going to sweep inside the Dragon Pit as they drop wards, because we know they're going to try and contest it, he instead, I believe, sweeped the River Bush there so he could try and land a gimmicky pull. Right. So, I don't know, just a lot of misplays there, and I really don't want to see that happening. That's something that, I understand, things happen and things do go wrong, but that was just a very large number of misplays all compounding on top of each other.
Although that actually shows something that I really don't... That really shows why I don't want to pick on people for missing Smite, because if you look at all the skill shots that went in there, the Thresh Hook is the last one you would expect to get Dragon.
For sure.
And so when you're looking at all these damage sources, that just goes to show how random they are. Granted, Smite has the advantage, and so if there is a Smite, it should be the one. But
if anything, I would have
why
expected Lux to steal it, because she has very good steal potential.
But that's why when I see 2 Smites and one jungler misses, I just, like... It's luck of the draw, almost.
For sure.
We do see Renekton actually split pushing, but I don't see that going very well for him.
He is about the only person who could possibly duel, but that's not going to go very well here. Nice attempted combo there. Beautiful Orianna ult. Goes across all of them, but they're just too far behind right now, and Ezreal's completely removed from that fight. So as nice as that ult was, you're not going to get anything from it.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we were talking about before, where there really isn't that much follow-up for the Ori ult. Because there's no AoE, it relies on Orianna being kind of fed for that combo to matter. Granted, Master Yi was taking red at the time, but...
Alright, so Siege mid inhib is exactly what I want to see here. Okay, looks like Blitz might have gone AFK. I'm not sure why he just stood at the tower and did nothing. Yeah, in chat he's saying he was AFK for a second. If you do have to leave for a second, just click once on your Nexus and then walk away. So that way you're at least out of the fight.
Oh, yeah.
I see some things going down in chat. Apparently one of the teams is about to surrender. I'm going to guess it's Purple Team, seeing as there is about a 10 to 11k advantage. So this is one of the few times where I've seen Purple Team actually having a numbers advantage in a fight. That being said, Orianna is just showing up now. Her ult is up. Okay, no, instead she's just going to walk into a Jinx trap. I understand that you do want to go in, and okay, decent ult there. Not necessarily catching the people you want. And Lux is going to zero her out incredibly quickly. Unfortunately, that's pretty much just going to be the end of this fight. And we had a lot of concerns with team comp, and I think they're pretty valid based on how the game went. So definitely do watch the video back for those of you who were in this game, so you can get some advice on playstyle, but more importantly, just how picks synergize or don't synergize together, and maybe adjust in the future. So the surrender does go through.
To be fair, the Elise didn't put down that much more pressure in ganks than Master Yi did. I think it had a lot more to do with Lux just getting ahead and snowballing.
For sure.
But we saw again and again that Blitzcrank can't really do that much against Thresh. And that Renekton, like, he pulled even, or close to even in kills towards the end, but only because they were winning team fights.
For sure, yes.
Kind of a bad matchup for him.
Yeah, I would actually definitely recommend that at least watch the video back so she can see where some of her time was wasted and where she could have had more of an impact. But at the end of the game, I mean, she did go 2-1-7, so
Right.
she definitely did well. In terms of item builds, oh my god, Ezreal went for a tier plus. No.
Essence Reaver, which is almost 0 damage.
Yeah, so
And also they run the same purposes. You take tears, so you never run out of mana. You take essence reavers, you never run out of mana. You don't really gain anything from not running out of mana twice.
either you're out of mana or you're not. He has 0 damage item built, and the only other item he has is Enchanted Berserker's Greaves.
And Ezreal doesn't do that much auto attacking anyway.
So I don't know here. I mean, if you really want to go for blue build, that's fine. Pick up the tier only when you're ahead, like because blue build is the snowball
Kills your
build.
lane. Yes.
Yeah, and then you need to be rushing out damage, whether you're going for Trinity Force, whether you're going direct into full damage items with like I've seen a lot of people still rush Infinity Edge on them.
Right.
I don't agree with it, but I have seen people do it.
I think
it would still
Trinity
have
Force
damage then.
Infinity Edge is a pretty solid build. Trinity Force Bloodthirster is not bad. Ezreal's in a weird position build wise right now. I don't want to say that there is a definitively best build, but I don't know how to feel about. Well, I actually do know how to feel about this build. I think it leaves you with no damage.
Yeah, it gives it's a 0 out of 10. Sorry.
There's nothing wrong with Oriana's build. It's what I'd expect. It looks like she's building Void Staff second, and that is a very solid Ori build. She was just behind enough.
Yeah, and from what little we were able to glean from that lane, because it is hard to offer advice when one side is so dominant, but from what I was seeing, she was tanking minions quite a lot, so she was putting herself in a bad position to begin with, but it was also then lining up the skill shots for Lux. Because you're already standing in the middle of enemy minions, you don't have as much mobility, you're already taking damage, and you're not standing behind your own minions. So
Right.
that let Lux snowball very quickly early, and that was a definite misplay. She also had some issues with being able to last hit and farm, and I didn't see her trying to pull her way back into the game through taking things like Wraiths or... roaming wouldn't have really worked for her in this game, but it's something for her to consider in the future. Shyvana, you had some comments for that, so I'll let you go over it.
It's hard to say because she doesn't have that much build-wise, but Sunfire Cape took a nerf. It's better late game, but it's weaker early game, which makes it not a very strong rush item. I think a lot of people have been still rushing Bork on her, but I don't want to say there's anything bad about Sunfire Cape, and the only reason her build is weird is just because she doesn't have that much gold in general.
Right.
I actually really like the Blitzcrank's build. It's got just a focus on just his utility. So he's got move speed, so it's easier for him to make picks from the Boots of Mobility. He's got vision from the Sight Stone, so he can see where the picks are. And he's got Talisman of Ascension to really catch someone out of position. And then I see a lot of Blitzes build weird items, like they'll get a Sheen, or then like go into Trinity Force, or like build AP. But no, he goes for like a tanky CDR build, which means he's going to have a lot more knockups in team fights. I think that's a very solid build.
Yeah, late game you would be upgrading that into an Iceborne Gauntlet.
On the other hand, it's 27 minutes into the game, and Master Yi's Feral Flare is not done, and that's something that worries me a little bit. It seems like he did a lot of farming, because he actually has more CS than anyone in his lanes. The problem is, a lot of that farm came from lane, and I think that's a mistake that a lot of junglers who are running Feral Flare will do, is it is a smart thing to do, to go to a lane, to push it, to take that CS when your laner isn't there, typically. But it doesn't give you Feral Flare stacks. And not to say that Feral Flare stacks are everything, but you do at least want it completed, or you'll have no damage to champions.
Now, I think pretty much everything with Jinx, her build is standard, but
Yeah,
in
everything
the
on blue
comments
side-
with just the blitz hooks, you need to be positioning better.
I also don't like the Black Cleaver on Renekton. I think you should, I said this last time too, put it off until completing it at the very end of the game, because it doesn't add very much over Brutalizer. Especially, again, because a lot of your damage is magic from Lux and Elise, so the Armor Shred won't even do that much.
And is Tiamat still not a rushed item on him so that he can cancel his stun?
Most people I know will rush Tiamat on him. Yeah, so what you can do is you can auto-attack, stun, and then your stun normally, technically, it stuns you and yourself. Or sorry, it stuns your target and you. But if you Tiamat right after the animation, you spend all of the time that you would spend not attacking doing the Tiamat damage. So I think that's normally a standard item on him. You don't even finish Ravenous, you just get Tiamat into tank.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with Black Cleaver. I think it's a good item on him, but you shouldn't really upgrade it.
Definitely. Lux's build I actually really like because there was no magic resist on the enemy team. She didn't have to go with the Void Staff.
That seems like a perfect build.
I've actually been experimenting with very similar builds to this, where I go very early burst damage, whether that's Source Boots, cooldown reduction into Death Cap, if they're not building magic resist. And then you can follow that up, it looks like she is as well, going into a Hourglass.
Right.
Because she had no magic resist to deal with. The only magic resist item on the enemy team was one set of Merc Treads in top lane. So you have no concerns in terms of magic resist. And so you may as well just go full burst, full CDR, so that we can set up more snipes for you. And she was doing a very good job of doing that. So I really like her build overall.
And I think Elise's build is good too. She's going for the CDR build as opposed to the pen build. And she has 2 heavy damage sets that are very immobile. So having more stuns is just good for her.
Now, what's your opinion on Thresh with Face of the Mountain? I personally hate Face of the Mountain as an item, mostly because anytime I play solo queue, it's such a fight to let people actually have you use the active, and I care so much about, before when it was 20% on Talisman, I cared about 40% CDR Thresh so you could chain hooks, and being able to stay in range to keep dealing damage and CCing.
I'd much rather have Shirelia's on... I'm going to go ahead and say every support but Leona. But no, actually, I prefer Shirelia's on every support. It's just that it's easier to handle Face of the Mountain on Leona because your melee